Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about the stages of an aerial photography or videography project. So let's get started. Pre-flight, pre-planning, pre-production planning. So this is where you kind of have an idea what you want to do, start defining your creative goals, get on, let me show you here. So I pulled up Air Map. Now I'm from Chico and actually grew up, I think I can even find the street. I believe it's this middle one right here, which is right by a runway. So I could not have flown. I left there, I believe, when I was 17. So I could have not flown my drone right in my backyard. That would be in a path. But as you're mapping, let's say, some of these will require, some of these you can get automated authorization, using like, I guess, the Air Map app or, contacting the tower manager. So you'd want to map it out with Air Map, along with based on your creative goals. And then let's keep going. So let's assume for the sake of simplicity, we're doing kind of in maybe the upper Bidwell Park area. We look here, we realize, okay, right there, let's say we're shooting for this area. So what we'd be looking at is mapping, like, okay, how do we get there? Where's the nearest exit point for a road, to park our vehicle? And just the high level logistics is part of the pre-flight, pre-production planning. We locate our launch sites, like I said, map travel logistics using, something like Google Maps, and then we'd want to pull up our weather app. So we pull up our weather app. I'm using UAVforecast.com. Gives us a pretty good idea about visibilities, wind gusts, whatnot. So, that would be in the pre-planning stage. You don't want to arrive at a location and the wind gusts are going to be insurmountable. So let's keep going. And I'll include this blog in my video, but I have a sample right here from just the basic location information you want to get from right here. So flight location information. You should have a checklist, whether it's something you build out in a Google form or something you can save probably electronically. So just the basic flight information with include latitude, longitude, and the Google Map link. So let's keep going. Permissions and restrictions. Again, this is what you would get this pre flight with Air Map, but it also a good idea to recheck, because they could have closed down a fly zone just for any number of reasons. So going back to the safety information checklist, again, this is from my blog, but just a basic checklist of safety: physical inspection of the drone, battery life, number of satellites, I think, is very important as far as safety goes, and then physically inspection of the takeoff area is always helpful. Moving on to the weather checklist, I usually just do a fairly simple one: surface temperature, visibility, wind direction, weather conditions. Some pilots may do barometric pressure and humidity. Generally, I have not elected to not record those. Next, I like to do an individual checklist going live. It's usually just two things: all systems go, and then launch the aircraft. So we'll keep going. If at all possible, it's great to be able to record individual flight data within the same mission or flight. So if, let's say, this is one battery use, obviously it'd probably be more than 2 flights, but let's say you're starting from the home point, which you've already captured in your flight data, capture beach line from starting point, and then you have your elevation notes, and then any flight notes. If you can record that information, and at least set up the template and make sure that template is ready and before you're launching your aircraft. So let's move on. Next, I talk about this mid-flight data recording can be very useful, whether you're using another person as your visual observer, or I like voice activated recorder. You can call out your directions, what your creative goal of that pass, in your drone. Okay, let's move on. Post-flight debriefing. this is where all parties, in my case, I'm the remote pilot in command, and I normally have a visual observer with me. So we kind of just sit down, go over our general safety protocols, look at the media we've gotten. So a lot of times, I try to do this as soon as possible. Like to dump all the media from my drone right into the laptop. Be able to sit down shortly after the flight while our memory is still fresh, and do a review. Any of the mission data. Let me give you a sample here. So this is a sample flight. Any of the missing mission data, try to get that filled in, or have a plan to get that filled in the post debriefing process. So let's continue. Okay, so this is the flight team production team handoff, and what this involves is this is based on the assumption the piloting team is not the same group that's going to be doing the creative edits. So you have the pilot and maybe the pilot and the visual observer going out taking the photos and the videos and then handing it back to a third-party creative team. So in this case, we want to sit down with the creative team, either physically or virtually, verify the pilot data. So that'd be the sheet we provided, such as this. Assess the media of creative. So probably on a, like I said, either virtually or physically, have this at least on a, in a raw form of cloud transfer. It wouldn't necessarily need to be organized at this point. We look at how the flight went, discuss process improvements, and it could be on both sides. The flight team might have requests of how they want their request handled by the media team, or vice versa. And then we would get back to media transfer to organized cloud storage. I think I have a video on this, but the key is just to make sure it's organized as best it can, because especially if you're dealing with two teams. So it could be each site launch location has its own media folder, and that media folder's in another folder by the mission name. So let's say you're doing Southern California and the 7 beach launches. The root folder could be Southern California beach launch, and then maybe even the date, and then individual folders inside that main folder. Okay, so next we're assuming all the information is handed properly to the creative production team. They'll be using software such as Adobe Premiere Pro, Adobe After Effects, Final Cut, if on a Mac. And so they would have all the information and be able to produce their wonderful work of art at this point. So I hope that helps, guys. Thanks.